And
We're live.
sweet, we're all here. You know, we are competing with the Republican
I
national
know.
debate right now. So
My
there's going
dad's
to be a ton
watching
of
it right now.
Republicans that are bummed that they don't get to watch us.
Too bad.
So, guys, before we get started with film talk, I just wanted to let you know I had a huge debacle on my
Oh, gosh.
drive over here from work.
Sorry,
Wait,
I was
what
just watching a live stream and I couldn't hear anything. What was just
The
said?
audio- Wait, so what happened? What's your debacle?
So my debacle was the quesalupa. I don't know if you guys
Quesalupa.
are familiar, but Taco Bell has this new awesome thing called the quesalupa, and it is a chalupa with a cheesy chalupa shell. So anyways, it sounds like really bad for you, right? Which it is. And I eat very healthy. I take pride in eating healthy. Today I had carrots, cauliflower, broccoli, and hummus, and I had
It's
like
good.
whole grain waffles, like good stuff. But I really was craving one of those. So on my drive home, I was just about to go into Taco Bell, and I said no. I didn't
Oh,
do it.
wow.
I didn't cave in, and I kept on driving. So
That's
needless to
incredible.
say, I'm kind of hungry right now, but I didn't put a quesalupa in my belly to clog my arteries.
Congratulations. Drink a lot of water to fill up.
Great
Yeah,
job.
appreciate it, appreciate it. I take pride in it, but all right. So let's
Sweet
talk
dude.
cameras, right?
Yeah, dudes. Cameras. I've taken a break from cameras in my vlogs lately because I've come to realize that it doesn't matter, but
Well,
it matters to talk about it to an extent.
okay, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But
Yeah, go ahead. You could,
Well, I think there's a big culture with us filmmakers that we like to talk about technology and we like to talk about cameras because I think that pushes us away from the core issue, which is a good story. So,
Okay.
so maybe a disclaimer to this whole conversation that you can have the best gear in the world, but you can make the shittiest video with the best gear in the world.
Right. Well, it's the idea that knowledge is far, far more important than the actual equipment. But it's almost like, I mean, we'll get into it, but I think we're all somewhat under the same belief system that you kind of graduate to the next level of like gear and equipment once you've mastered the knowledge and equipment that you have, or at least the knowledge that you should have with what you have.
Yes, I think I put in that recent article, the filmmaker should be smarter than their gear, not the other way around.
Right.
For
Your
example,
recent article that happened to go huge on Reddit
Blowing
filmmakers,
up.
right? That was
Blowing up.
awesome, man.
That was
I thought
great.
that was a fantastic article, by the way.
Thank you.
you could
A little bit of Photoshop.
next time you should
Yeah.
do it directly on the Valley Film site and then link it like straight to your website and then boom, start a blog right there instead of on Medium. I don't know.
Well, I've completely shifted my whole blog to Medium.
Okay.
I did have Valley Films /blog, and it just got to be too much maintenance. Like I had to do a whole WordPress, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go Medium because you can go straight through Twitter through that. You don't have to like, because I don't think anybody nowadays logs in or has an account with a private blog.
Right. Yeah.
Like everyone just has a Twitter or Facebook. They don't have like I'm a member of the cinema5d.com.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Even
Well,
like
it's hard to manage and maintain that. I mean, there's a certain amount of upkeep if you like have your own thing, whereas if someone else is hosting it.
yeah. So Medium, it's you type it, you put a picture, you title it, and you press publish. So that's why I've liked it.
Easy
So.
enough.
Anyways, I thought that was a great article. I thought your choices of cameras. I'm gonna look at it again right now, just so I can verify. But I remember looking at it. I was really impressed with like the cameras that you chose for like each level, more or less. I agreed with like, oh, this general type of camera is in the pro side. This is the camera that is in the broke ass part. Like I agreed with that. I think I agree. Kind of, we're mainly going to be talking about cameras and stuff here, but I know hardly anything about sound. But I was noticing that at least like some of the things I think generally was well received. Otherwise, it wouldn't have done as well. But generally, people said stuff about like sound that I don't know, like they're.
Yeah, they were saying some of the gear I chose was like a professional would not use this gear. Like it was like $30,000 camera, $300 audio equipment. It's like
Right. Yeah,
Well,
that was interesting.
wasn't your idea with the article also? It's almost like these are all your things, like that belong to you that you can use when you're shooting like an interview or video, or if you're shooting a short film. It's
Right.
not the idea that because obviously when you're shooting like a short film or a feature, and say you have a red or something like that, a lot of DPs will rent themselves and that red out, and they'll have a certain day rate, or they'll have a certain um, a rental rate or something like that, and then someone else will kind of do the same thing as a sound person with their sound equipment. So
Yeah.
my impression was all of the things that you put up there were for the individual, like good stuff to have, to rent yourself out, kind of.
Yeah, almost like you're the solo guy, you're a solo videographer or
Right.
filmmaker,
Right.
and yeah, that's the kind of gear you should have if you kind of want to be a one-man team, or because yeah, there were in the comments. It's like if you're just gonna be a camera guy, just get a camera, get a
Yeah.
lens, borrow sound, borrow lighting. Don't worry
Yeah.
about anything else.
I saw you put the 70D with the red, and no, you don't. 70D is like, I don't know. It's okay.
Wait, where?
You put the DR70D. I'm sorry, the
Oh, the
pass
task
cam.
cam.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
not the camera.
See,
They're
I'm
all the
not.
same.
Yeah.
But
See, I'm not 100% astute on the audio
audio,
gear.
right?
Like
Yeah,
I edited a little bit, added Sound Devices 633, which is
right.
I've actually used that before, and that's super nice.
A lot of people
Not
were
big with the brand names on that one.
commenting on the new not what's the other brand, Tascam? Who makes the H4n?
The other one's Zoom.
Zoom,
Zoom.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Zoom, the new Zoom recorder has has 4 channels. It's and the preamps are apparently really really good, and it's
Nice.
gonna put everyone else out of business apparently.
Hmm.
So,
Bring it on.
I
Well,
think I need to learn so much more about sound, but yeah.
it's important. If you don't know how to do it, you can at least knowing the process or what makes good sound
Right.
can help you as the director.
Oh yeah. Like
You
I can
gotta,
appreciate good sound. I mean, I'm obviously a camera and lighting guy, but I appreciate good sound and obviously good music. So.
well, I just mean like if you're the director and you kind of look over and you're looking at your sound guys and you're not completely confident in them,
Yeah.
you having some knowledge and sound like, hey, are you supposed to be doing that, or hey,
Right. I could see that.
shouldn't you have gotten room tone by now?
Okay. Yeah. So like the process. Gotcha. For sure.
I've told you stories where I've been on set where like sound guys have like literally gotten in the way of like grip work and things
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
they would like move a light or something. And you're like,
No,
what the
not even. But while we'd be setting up and setting up the lights for a scene, the sound person would be in the middle of the staging area or in the middle of the set, like practicing their boom.
Like a stand-in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're just like, we're still lighting here.
Right.
Please.
Get out of our way.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's somebody. Oh, you know what? I think I've even touched on this before, but like there's somebody famous for his sound chair at my film school.
No, you talked to us about that. Yeah.
I did. Okay, so I'll just breeze by that. But yeah, it sounds important.
I think sound is definitely an afterthought. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people say they respect it and
They don't.
love it, but it's like, do you really? I mean, a lot of times, even financially, if you're budgeting, sound always gets the like just shit on for the most part. It's
You
just
could
like,
have
you
the
can have
worst
the
looking
leftover.
movie, but if your movie sounds bad, then that's automatically considered a bad movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like you could have any found footage movie is horribly shot, but if it sounds good, then it's a good movie.
You
But
buy it. You buy it definitely.
right. So I always say a movie's like 70% sound, 30% video, visual.
Okay. Is that like an arbitrary thing that you think, or do you truly believe that?
I truly believe it because you could have
Okay.
like as somebody who loves like cinematography and things
Yeah.
like that, but it's just if your sound's bad, I will immediately like click off your short film or
Right.
video or YouTube. But if it looks bad, I could get away with it, but notice that hey, this sounds really really good. The mix is incredible.
Yeah.
That's just me.
I agree, man. I think other people agree too, whether they know it or not.
Why don't we start with sound, with just talking gear, and then we can kind of upgrade
Okay.
the cameras.
We did cover sound a lot. What else do you have?
Well, I say the note that Troy made about the new Zoom device that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason
Oh,
that
it's Chris. I know.
Oh,
Talk all
sorry.
about sound.
Sorry about that. It's like Zoom and Tascam. They're sort of the Apple Android, and Zoom is the Apple because it's similar quality, but they jack up the prices just to appear elegant, to kind of appear superior. Whereas you can get a Tascam device, same, kind of that same bracket, for almost a third of the price. Where something like the Zoom H4n and versus the Tascam DR60, I mean their price is vastly different, but Tascam can keep up.
Can you explain to me, like, because I know so little about sound, and I'm sure our viewers or people that are listening in are curious as well, like, what is it that you are looking for? Because, I mean, when I look at camera stuff, I know I'm looking for dynamic range. If I'm looking for photography stuff, I'm looking for a certain level of megapixel. If it shoots 4K, high frame rate, all stuff like that. Saturation levels and what's the raw, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, what are you looking for with sound, and what is it that like a Tascam has that's something like that Zune wouldn't have?
YouTube reviews.
Yeah, YouTube. What I would go for first is XLR inputs, because you want to have a balanced sound. If you use 3.5 millimeter headphone jack for audio, or the guitar cable, they don't have a balanced line. So it gets really technical, because if you lay a power cord on top of an XLR cable, it will make a 120 hertz hum.
Oh.
So you'll hear this. But with the XLR cables, it's a positive and negative cable, so they balance each other out. It's almost like a power. Think of a light with 2 plugs, or think of a light with 3 plugs.
Okay.
That third plug balances it out, and it won't cause interference, and it won't. It's a little safer bet than just that 2-prong electrical cord. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel it.
I mean, it's not like it kind of translates like that.
Yeah. Okay.
The next part.
Preamps.
Yeah, preamps. That's what I was gonna say. I always forget that. But yeah, you want a preamp because you want, or what a preamp does, it takes the signal that's coming in, so someone talking on a microphone, and it boosts it up without distorting it.
Okay, so it takes your input and makes it better.
Right. It cleans it up. It gives it a little power, but it's not the same. It's just like raising the gain on it.
Right.
The preamp kind of raises the sound, enriches it, to make it a little more workable in post.
Ah, okay.
I mean, the next is batteries, battery life, multiple channels. That's what I would go for.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely multiple channels. Like, for example, the recorders that Jordan and I have 2 different channels, so we could record 2 different tracks at the same time. One at let's say -6 decibels, and a backup track at -12 decibels in case somebody gets really loud and it clips or peaks.
Right.
Past 0 and it distorts. You have the backup track that you could still use that's salvageable.
Okay, and so you do a preset for that, basically, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, that I'm learning about sound from you guys. That's awesome.
I like the DR60 because of the kind of the tactile dials. On the Zoom H4, it doesn't have it's a clicky button on the side that raises the volume, which could mess up your audio, I think. But yeah, you click, you hear this bumping sound. But the other part about Zoom is they have those onboard microphones, which you can kind of do press like a news journalist, where it's just those little little microphones on top.
For sure.
They sound really bad though.
Yes.
But if you're a news journalist and need to record something so you could write it up later, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
Your iPhone's fine for that.
If you're a true sound engineer or you're trying to get professional audio, then those are not. That's not an option. Which is
Yeah.
why the DR60 is great, DR70 is great because it just says like, why do I need that? So
Right.
Moving on.
Yeah. Do you guys want to just talk about cameras now, or do we want to?
yeah,
Yeah.
let's roll into
Let's talk
cameras.
about cameras, man. That's what this is all about, and I think
Yeah,
it's
for
like
fun.
it's the more glamorous thing. I feel
Wait,
like, you know.
so
Yeah.
Jordan, what have you seen on the new T6i or whatever? The
It was
new.
yeah, it was the Canon T or the Can.
Yeah, it was a T6i. There's also an 80D, but I don't. Has the 80D been out for a little bit?
Yeah, the 80D came out, I think, right around. I associated with when Anchor came out, so I think like a month ago.
Oh, okay, cool.
But
I
it doesn't look. I got the 70D, and it doesn't look
Oh, the
I
80D is
don't.
like on the
any
same
different.
tier as
Well, I
what do you
realized
bring?
that. Well, there you go.
I was
I've
gonna
kind of
say.
I realized that the 70D was a successor to the 60D because there's no more 60Ds, and
Yeah,
then the
and
80D seems
that
to
was a
be
great jump up.
right,
Like
right,
that was a lot of difference.
right. And that 60D is like my backup camera that I got like 5 or 6 years ago, or no, like 3 or 4 years ago. I got my 60, I think, like 2 years ago. But anyways, and then now it seems like the 80D. I feel like I'm saying ADD, but I'm not. I'm saying 80,
80D.
80D is the successor to the 70D.
Right. Yeah,
It
that's
is,
what I think it is.
but it's so similar. I
Not enough
mean,
change.
there's not enough change. Not enough
What is
for
the change?
that's what I
The thing with this, I feel like
I remember. It's 1080p 60 frames per second instead of just the maximum 30 frames per second.
that's kind of cool because usually 60 frames is like 720. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Granted,
But
I'm a full frame guy when it comes to like if you're gonna shoot video with these things, I'd prefer the full frame.
Hmm.
So you're still gonna get a crop sensor with that, you know.
but it's the same. It's pretty much the same megapixels, same autofocus, same flip screen, same. I mean, the only big change is the 60 frames per second. But I tell people all the time, it's not really that cool of a slow motion effect. Like
Yeah.
if you're trying to get those
Not
like
60.
walking on the beach, cool kind of
Well, it's cool
feel
if you
it.
put it down to 40%. I feel like when you put it at
Yeah.
40%, which is what it should be, I think it
Hmm.
looks cool, but it almost becomes like too slow.
Yeah, it doesn't look
It's
100%
just like, all
natural.
right, like if you do that for 2 or 3 seconds in a video, it's like, all right, fine. But if you do it for like 15 seconds, you're just like, come on, like I got things to do. But here's my
It's
problem with Canon. I mean, we are all Canon video guys. Like I mean, I
yeah.
have my 60D and my 60. Jordan, you have your 70D, and then Chris, you have your T4i.
Yeah.
And then you're looking,
Fucking
but
fast.
you're looking into getting a new camera. So we're all Canon guys. My issue with Canon, at least they're like low zoomer or like low zoomer to like somewhat prosumer area, is it
Mhm.
almost seems like they're confused because with the 60D, 70D, and 80D, again, I feel like I'm saying ADD. They have the like articulating screen, which is so nice. Like
Oh yeah.
it's funny because I love the quality of my 6D more, like because I get a little bit more dynamic range with it, like very, very little, like maybe one stop, if that. But it's full frame, so I get to see more. But what the thing is with the 60, I don't have that articulating screen.
Right.
So record like if I happen to like be in a tight spot that I'm doing some sort of video for, it's like I can't necessarily always see. I have to like kind of figure
Yeah,
out
you're
some
shooting
sort of
blind.
trick. So when I do my vlogs and stuff, I always use my 60D because at least I can see, what I'm working with. My issue with Canon is they almost seem confused because those 60, 70 Ds, it's like those with the articulating screens, I feel like they should bring those articulating screens to their full frame video consumer lines. It's like
Yeah.
which they don't. You think they would, and then the ones that they do are crop sensors, and they're just now doing things like 1080p, 60 frames per second on it. So it's like they're
Think about
mixing
it
things
this way:
around.
if your 60 had a rotating screen, you wouldn't need your 70D or 60D, which whichever one you have. So you
Right.
would have never like bought it, or you would have sold it or gotten rid of it. Now
Well,
you
that, I mean, that was the first camera that I got, and the reason that I kept it is I didn't keep it because of the articulating screen. I kept it in case my 6D broke.
hmm
I kept it because it's nice to have a second camera too. If I'm doing like a wedding or something like that, it's
Right.
nice to have that second camera. But it wasn't because of the articulating screen or because it had better things. I feel like Canon needs to figure their shit out
Yeah,
because
they're
I don't know how you guys
Dude,
feel about this, but Sony is like they're doing all the right things and they keep doing it, you know? It's
mhm.
just
Dude, I've been bitching about Canon since I've been bitching about them for like 3 or 4 years now because yes, the flip screen, they are slow to market, they are slow to digital trends. I
mhm.
mean, name the name Canon cameras that shoot 4K.
The what is it, the three C300 Mark II?
C300 Mark II and the
The
C500,
1DX, the new 1DX, right?
1DX.
1DX, and the 1DC.
And yeah, I think that's it, right?
So
And
if you want to get 4K with Canon, you have to spend over $15,000
Yep.
just to shoot 4K. If you want to do that for Sony, Panasonic, uh, you know, AJA, you can spend
$3,000. The
$3,000,
A7,
$2,000, even $1,000.
yeah,
You know,
the A7S II you can get for $3,000. You can get a jawbone adapter, which I think is like $299, and you can use all your Canon glass. Like that is why so many people are switching to Canon at this point, or
so
from Canon to Sony. You know, so
yeah.
I
probably gonna be
feel
me.
I feel like Canon has something up their sleeve. Like I want to give them another year or two.
Yeah, their glass is awesome. I give them that, and their color is really good. The Canon color on these cameras
Mhm.
is unbeatable. I mean, even the Sony A7S, A7S II, it's still a little yellow sometimes.
Well, that's why you
For
color correct. I mean, what you
yeah,
get out of the camera, that's the thing with the Sony cameras. They shoot with like in RAW and they have better codecs so that you have more information to work
mhm,
with in
hmm
post. Like you can use Resolve and pull out certain colors and you have more dynamic range. So your highlights aren't clipping and your shadows, you have a little more room to work with. Like these
that's true.
Sony sensors are dope, especially for the price. I mean, yeah, they're not
Oh, oh no,
Alexas, they're not red, you know.
I'm not 100% knocking them, but
Yeah.
on an in-camera basis, Canon skin tones versus Sony skin tones, Canon wins that one.
They're a little
Yeah,
more
that's
like orangish, reddish, I feel like, and Sony is a little more like greenish, right?
Yes,
I've seen a lot of comparison videos
Yeah.
that have started with Canon still.
but they've been so slow. Their DSLRs should. I mean, they're still making DSLRs. Like
Right.
they haven't transitioned into mirrorless, which Sony's dominating.
See, mirrorless kind of freaks me out though. Like I like mirrorless, but
Yeah.
the thing is like if you've ever looked inside an A7S or an A7S2 or any like the A7R,
Mhm.
the sensor is just right there. Like it is
Yeah.
literally right there, you know?
Mhm.
And these are cameras that I mean these are prosumer cameras, so these are things that are probably going to get beat up a little bit. They're not bigger cameras that have like these, certain gimbals around them or things like that and are like really handled with super great caution. These are cameras that, I mean, hell, if I had one, I would take it to the beach. I would take it, just all over the place. And I feel like it scares me a little bit.
Yeah, and then if you're working with the adapters, something because those adapters always don't quite fit perfect.
The E-mount ones?
The like the
The
Metabones ones, when I've done
Oh, yeah,
E
the adapter, yeah.
they
E
fit
mount to
they
EF.
fit like 95%.
Oh,
really
really?
no.
Yeah, because I've worked on a wedding and the glass or the camera couldn't read what the lens was doing. It couldn't read
Mhm.
the f-stop. It couldn't read uh, the autofocus, and you had to like open it
Really?
up. You had to like take it off the mount and then click it back in, and it's like, oh,
Uh,
now I recognize
So
because it's also like a software thing too.
so
right.
I've used Metabones like a lot, and I have a lot of friends that have used the Metabones adapter, and they've only used it. They haven't done it with photography glass.
Mm.
Only
Oh,
like
okay.
cinema
Just
glass.
cine lenses?
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about f-stop because
Right.
it's
So,
on
so
the
I was like, what do you
lens.
mean it only works some of the time? What? only one Metabones adapter experience of mine has been a little funky, where like the little eject button got jammed on it or something.
Yeah,
But I don't know if that's a common thing. That's only happened to me with one Metabones adapter that I've ever used. Um, so I don't know. That's just one thing to consider. It's $400. It's a lot of money.
it's a lot of money.
You know what I think we should do, guys? I think we should talk about the cameras in this sense. Like, talk about it much like your article, where we kind of go down the gambit of like broke ass to, full on professional. Talk about the certain cameras that are under these categories and like what's the benefit, which one would you do, but
Hmm.
mainly what is the utility of these cameras? Like, if you were to buy this camera, what should you expect to be doing with it? Obviously you don't buy a 60D and be like, I'm going to shoot a feature film with it. If you do, it's like, well, good luck. But
You can.
like,
You
you
can.
can't. I mean, I personally, with my short films, I'm going big on them. But anyways, like,
Yeah.
what utilities should you be doing? Or at least we're gonna probably have differences opinions on these. But
Okay.
do you want to do something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's fine.
let's start at like the Canon Rebel series.
Lowest of the low, man.
Lowest of the low.
Lowest of the low.
So that would be. We could also talk like Sony too, because there's a couple like Sony cameras that are that small low end APS-C crop sensor that are sub $1,000 that
Yeah.
are probably
Nikon has them as well.
Nikon. That's another thing. Nikon has what is it, D800 or
Yeah, 8100.
that shoots 4K, doesn't it?
I think so.
They have a new camera that
Yeah.
shoots 4K. Nikon does, and they've
It's still a
never-
DSLR too.
Right. So,
Well, the one that just came out that
D500.
we talked about was the Rebel T6, and that is going for
400.
$550 on B&H brand new with the kit lens.
Mhm.
So maybe without is cheaper. But that looks like that's going to be the standard now in the Rebel series. And I started off on Rebel. I started with the T3i. Chris, you've got the T4i, and then it's pretty much the same. T5i kind of the same, and now the T6 it's kind of the same, but it's still getting incrementally better. And reading these specs on the T6, it's almost like the 70D.
yeah.
Oh,
So
is it?
I mean, that's the thing though, is each year it should get better. So you would think, I think it should be up to like the 70D at this point, or at least like a 60D, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with Moore's law, things should get better. It's you get better returns and everything. So I think it should be at least to that now.
The T2i and T3i, there's not really a difference that I recall when I remember doing research in 2012. What camera should I buy?
Mhm.
When I eventually settled for the T4i. The reason I got the T4i was because it was touchscreen, and it was the first The T3i doesn't have a flip out screen, right?
Mhm.
The T6, I just looked. It doesn't have a flip out.
T3i.
The T3i, if it has an eye, it has a flip screen.
Oh,
The T2i doesn't.
Yeah, because
It
it's
does not.
a
It
little,
does
little
not
over.
have, but the T3i and T4i have the flip screen, but it's also touch screen, so I went with that. It's really useful. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the T5i, there was like literally no change again. T6, I haven't looked at the specs, but they're all the same sensor. They're pretty much all the same megapixels. Not that that matters, but
I think the only difference now is, I guess I should maybe backtrack a little bit about it's almost like the 70D on a software basis. It's like the 70D, but in terms of the body and the construction, it's not. It's still
it's
plastic.
gotta be cheesy, right?
Yeah, real cheap material. Whereas like the 70D, water sealed.
Yeah.
And then like you get like that magnesium lighter body, but still stronger. A
Right.
little bit beefier in the hands.
See, that's what I'm saying, is they build these cameras with the intent that you're going to do things like that. Like, oh, you're going to get this camera probably close to some water,
Mm-hmm.
or, it's going to be hard because you might drop it, whereas, water seal, they don't do things like that to bigger cameras, and they don't make, and inversely, they don't make cameras that well built that are less than the 70D,
Yeah. Troy, what's your main photography camera?
My main photography camera is my 6D. So and
60.
that 60,
Okay.
and that's what I shoot video with too. So if I ever
Okay.
have any videography or like video stuff that's like smaller, I use my 60, and I've loved that camera. It's done well for me. Obviously, it's like I can look at things and there's better images for at least the purpose that I'm doing for videography. The only other type of camera that I would use for that specifically at this point would probably be like a Sony A7S, A7S II type thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love it. I love the full frame. It's dope.
You
I
worked with
think
a 5D Mark III?
Um,
I have.
a little bit. I've
Yeah.
had people that help, like come with me and are assistants that have had that, and I've rented a 5D Mark III too. Video wise, I actually think the 60 is like slightly superior.
It's
Okay.
actually it's funny because the 60 is apparently better in low light. I haven't
Hmm.
seen specs. It's just something I've heard.
Yeah.
But I've worked with actually both. I shot a movie once on a 5D Mark III.
Hmm.
It's a good camera. I wouldn't buy it because I'd get
It's at this point, no.
a
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sony. Yeah, back in the day, back like 3 years ago, totally worth a buy. But
Right.
Hmm.
I don't know. And
It's
if you
kind of
still
like
have it, it's
wherever
worth
you
it.
invested your money. It's like I feel like a lot of people are stuck in that like, well, I'm kind of with Canon now. Like I have L series glass stuff like that, so I kind of am in that court. Whereas if I was buying now for the first time
Hmm.
and I was a little more experienced, like I had a little experience under my belt, I'd be like A7S, A7S II all day, every day. The only thing is because I'm a photographer and filmmaker, I need certain utilities that maybe other people wouldn't. Their zoom lenses are not up to snuff with like a Canon series, but their prime lenses, I mean, they have Zeiss primes, not
Yeah.
master primes, but like they've got Zeiss prime lenses that are solid. So
Yeah, the Zeiss photography it's like gunmetal smooth focus. It's super crispy.
Get a
yeah,
Metabones adapter and you're totally fine.
Yeah.
that's the thing though. I don't want to have to get like I don't want to make my camera super modular and have like all these
It's
third
not. It's
party
it's
parts, you
it's
know?
like here's my iPhone. It's
Oh,
about
I know it's
like
tiny, but I don't like I mean, you are losing certain quality. I mean, Jordan was just talking about how 95% of the time it doesn't communicate. There's still issues with like autofocus and stuff if I'm taking pictures, which I need that like that.
Well,
so
And
95% of the time it does communicate or doesn't.
does.
it does. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's
Like
like that margin of error could probably be pretty bad, sometimes.
yeah, but Canon lenses versus the Sony lenses they have now. If you've seen reviews of people with the Sony lenses and they're like, let's take like an 1855 kit lens for Sony.
Hmm.
It will also do a digital display on your Sony screen. It'll show you like this little bar, like you're this far zoomed out, now you're this far zoomed in. And if
Mm.
you do it real slow, it doesn't quite adjust accurately. But if you do it real fast, it adjusts
Yeah,
accurately. So
right.
there's like a discrepancy with the actual hardware of the lens and the software of the camera
Right.
not communicating with that Sony lens,
Right.
which
Well, and that's what
which
I'm saying though. It depends on the utility they have. Like with these cameras that I have right now, I mean, my philosophy with videography and stuff is typically I will maintain the same focal length. I'll stay at, I mean, I shoot very wide when I do stuff, but
yeah.
I will typically stay at a, a normal focal length. But if I have to zoom in, like because something happens where I need to capture it at the moment and I can't, like if I have a prime lens or something like that or a fixed focal length, I would have to move the whole camera.
Hmm.
Whereas zooming, like you sometimes for videography you need that because it's not a shoot where you have different setups and you have time to move the camera. With videography, it's happening like that. You have to capture things as it go. So
Mhm.
it's like certain utilities like that with a zoom are necessary. And for me, the Sony cameras don't quite have those zoom lenses left. And the Metabone adapter, like I'm just not 100% convinced that it's worth it to have that because I mean I don't like. I mean, who knows if it fails, at some point. I mean, it's a
Right.
third party thing and it makes your camera more modular. It's like I'm just not quite on board with that yet.
No, I get what you're saying. So maybe we should talk about when you're making these camera buying decisions about
Hmm.
investing in a system. So I think we're kind of hitting on it, but when you're choosing to go with Canon, you also have to think about you need Canon batteries and Canon chargers and
Hmm.
Canon lenses.
Hmm.
Same with Sony. So
Well, not necessarily. We can't. I mean, you just need an EF mount or an EFS mount. That's what you mean mount-wise, right?
yeah, mount wise,
Okay. Okay.
but
Other
you
features
kind of
like
you're choosing a
batteries.
system. You're choosing the sort of team that you want to join,
Right.
and your gear has to match to be compatible with your camera.
Right.
So how do we? So like, what would we say now today is the best system kind of invest
I
in?
know. Looking into it, Canon batteries are really expensive and Sony batteries are really cheap.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I know that.
I mean, like I said, I would if I was going right now. If I had $5,000 just sitting around right now, I would probably get the A7S II and probably two of those Zeiss lenses that have the f1.8. I mean, I'd probably get like a 16 and like a 25 or something like that because I shoot pretty wide.
Yeah, I would go with Sony A7S II.
Hmm.
It's
Go A7S.
A7S.
Yeah.
I would just need a some kind of battery adapter on those because those batteries are little Lego
Yeah.
bricks and they
They
last
don't
like
last.
60 minutes.
Oh,
No.
see, that sucks.
60 minutes on like standby, not when you're shooting.
Okay.
If you're
Those
shooting,
cameras
20
only
minutes when you're
last
shooting.
60 minutes?
probably like
Oh, okay. See, that's another thing. Like,
I know a guy. I worked with him in Charlottesville, and he had a bag of 20 Sony batteries.
no
Because
way.
he would go through like 12 in a whole wedding.
Jesus, you might as well just do like double A's or something. Like, what?
Yeah.
Dude,
So I
you're
mean,
cycling through.
the Sony A7 you can do I think USB power. So if you have a big V-mount brick battery, you can just plug it in there. But then that's like investing more equipment.
Right. See, okay, so I know the A7R2 also shoots 4K, but to have that, you need to have an external 4K recorder. I feel like if you have that external 4K recorder, it's also going to be pulling battery from the camera. So how in that world could you possibly shoot 4K on that if you're shooting some sort of event? Like the battery would die and
Yeah.
so quickly, I have to imagine.
Looking at forums, it says like 2 to 3 hours off and on. It says an hour straight. I'd be skeptical to believe that, but like I wouldn't know because I've never personally shot anything on the A7S.
Yeah.
But I just know it's a pretty bad battery.
Yeah, I did. I think that wedding that you really liked, Chris, that was the A7S.
Right.
Battery was okay, but yeah, you have to have a recorder to record in 4K. But Troy, the A7R2,
Hmm.
I've used that before, and that one can shoot 4K. But I think it has
But
limited frame rates. And
right, but you also had to use an external recorder, right?
no, that one can record internally.
Yeah.
So can the A7S2. So the number twos can record internally.
Okay, so
I
it's
don't Does
the
anyone know the
A7S.
difference between the R's and the S? Because I think what I've I guess understanding is the S is more for video and the R's for more for photography stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah.
S stands for sensitivity. So that one, the S is meant
Low
for
light.
low light. So you can get that 406,000 ISO, and the A7R is more focused on larger megapixels, shutter speed, or
Hmm.
yeah, shutter speed, like shots per second.
Wait, with video?
No, with photography. If you're going photography, get the A7R. If you're going video,
Right,
get the
right.
A7S.
So you mean like multiple bursts? Like you can burst
Yeah.
probably like 10
Yeah,
shots. Okay.
that's what I meant. Whereas the A7S2 has probably a slower burst
Right.
per second. You know, probably like let me look it up right here.
Probably like 5 or
T4i
6 or
can
something like
do
that.
5.6 per second.
How many per second
5.6.
on the S2?
No, the T4i.
5.6?
Yeah.
You're
I don't
doing a
know.
point system on the shots? It's
No,
gonna
no.
be.
I remember because I was like, ooh, what's shutter burst when I first got it? And I
Well,
tried it.
what's point six of a trigger? Is that just like?
Like
Of a
meaning like
second.
in 1 second you could get half a shutter. So in
Oh, okay,
one
okay.
second there would be 6,
Gotcha.
if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
continuous shooting on the A7R2 is 5 frames per second at 42 megapixels for up to 22 frames.
Mm.
That's pretty fast. I mean, no, that's not.
I mean, that's fine.
Your 6D or even the 7D Mark II can do like 17
Well,
frames
here's the thing though. As a
burst.
photographer, like that's nice, but something there's two things that you'll learn as a photographer. When you first start, you understand, you're like, oh my god, I can take multiple pictures and at least one of these 5 or 6 will be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you get better, you're like, wait a second, I only have a certain amount of shots I could possibly get on this camera. I don't want to waste them. So then you get better at, like, you don't do so much of those bursts, you know?
Right.
So it's like, it's kind of this arc that you go through.
Right, and even your specialty in photography, like you don't need that speed. I mean,
no, I mean, well, when
the ocean isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, and when I do stuff for, you know, like if I do event stuff for Chapman University or stuff like that, then I'll, you know, do more things like that. But yeah, I try. It's
you're
very
more
hard to, but I try to limit my shutters.
you're more on like bulb mode. You're just like,
well,
you need it slower.
Yeah, like a 10-second, an exposure. But the thing is like, you have to think about the fact that when you're shuttering it, like it's a lot of impact and stuff. So the camera at a certain point is just like, it's like a beating heart, you know. Your heart only beats so many times. But yeah. So yeah. Are we kind of talking about broadcasts? We're kind of combining all the sections.
Yeah, we're in the kind of like I say the sub $5,000 category.
Okay, cool. So yeah.
Here's my next question. What's the difference between like the 5D, 6D, and 7D? Like, how do you like I don't.
7D is crop sensors, so that's APS-C.
Gotcha,
5D and 6D are both full frame.
Yep.
5D Mark III has like 24.3 megapixels or something like that. So it's
22.3.
22. Okay, no, their new cameras have 24. So it's like slightly more megapixels for pictures. What else? And then I think it has a slightly faster shutter speed for pictures as well, so you can get more of those bursts. I mean, for video, I'm not huge on the video that, like, like I was talking about. I mean, the fact with Sony you can shoot RAW, you have more information to pull from. I'm more about that, so I don't think Canon knows that much about video at this point with those lower consumer cameras, so they don't put a ton of information out about those, the sub $3,000 cameras, you know, like at least video wise.
Well, I think they have knowledge of video, but
they do. I'm just saying with those, of course they do. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm just saying they figure that the people who are using these maybe don't need to know, like, because I've looked up how many stops, what's the dynamic range of these cameras, and it's like impossible to find. And then I looked at, like, what is the native ISO of this camera, and it's like so debatable. Whereas something like a Red or an Alexa, you're like, well, the native ISO is 800, and everyone knows that, you know.
Right. That makes sense. Well, also we may hit on it a little bit, but it's kind of a marketing thing too. They want the video guys to go to that $5,000 plus market. Yeah. They don't want you hanging out in the $2,000, $1,000, and they kind of want to push you out as much as possible.
Yeah.
To kind of boost you up. Yeah, let's answer this guy's question real quick before he gets lost in the chat.
Yeah, we don't want him to get too.
Super King Goodman asks, I am doing a short film. Should I spend the extra money renting audio equipment or camera movement equipment?
Camera movement equipment?
Like a movie.
Does he mean like a steady cam or a rig?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm not the person to ask for that, because I'm gonna say camera stuff every time, and I know there's a better answer.
So he's got extra money and he hasn't spent it on audio equipment. That makes me nervous.
Indicator that he should spend it on audio. Am I right?
Yeah, it was like.
And we talked about that earlier. We talked about, Chris, you were saying that you think a film is much more legitimate if it has really good sound. So, I guess sound is the answer.
If you're debating, like, if you don't have like even decent audio equipment, like, then definitely go audio equipment. But if you like, all you need is an H4n, and it's gonna sound okay. It's not gonna sound great, but it's gonna sound like acceptable for a short film.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is like a philosophical question to me as well. Like,
what if he was talking about like extra audio equipment? So he's got his field recorder, his boom pole, his shotgun mic. Now he's debating if he wants to get some lavaliers to kind of hide in the scenery, or get a little wireless
No,
look.
don't invest in more than you need to, because if you do and the person doesn't know how to use it properly, then it's just ineffective and it's not worth it. It's kind of like having a Steadicam and nobody knows how to balance the Steadicam. I've been
Oh,
in
that'd
that
be
situation before.
dumb. That's
That's
super
Yeah.
expensive.
that's
But
a
you've
great answer.
No,
there's
no, I've never done it.
oh,
But
I
like,
was no, I know, but like
but
you guys didn't have a Steadicam operator?
um, no, well, the DP didn't have experience like stabilizing a Steadicam, and
Mm,
the gaffer kind of did, but like
mm,
not enough to like make it worthwhile. It was rough. So like they were fiddling with it for like a while. Same thing goes with audio gear. If you don't know how to properly place a lav mic, or if you don't know how to use this like more expensive mixer, then it's just not going to be any use for you. But
right.
Mm.
Here's what I have to say. This will be my final thought on it. It depends on how he's shooting it. If he's shooting it static and he's shooting it on a tripod and that, like him and his DP have discussed that,
mhm.
and that is kind of what it is, then I would say definitely go the audio. But if they're trying to shoot it with like a little more dynamic movement and they're actually trying to track and things like that, then you might want to look into something like a Dana Dolly. You might want to look into like it depends on what they're shooting on as well, because if you're shooting with a bigger camera,
You
like
need a
then
Dana
you're going to
Dolly.
need a bigger Steadicam. Like all these
Right.
apparatuses have to be bigger.
Right.
So it's I really there needs to be we need more information, I guess, to like amply answer the question. But probably at this point, I'd say sound.
I would say he's probably shooting on like a DSLR, so like yeah, he could get away with like getting a slider, or at least a Manfrotto tripod, like a fluid head tripod that
Yeah.
smoothly
Definitely,
bends.
yeah, definitely a tripod. If he doesn't have a tripod, if you don't have a tripod, just make sure you have a tripod.
I'll flip the answer. If he already has the decent audio equipment and he's debating between renting extra audio or camera movement, I would say save that extra money for distribution. Save it
Mm.
for film festivals. Don't
Right. There you
kind
go.
of flip it on you. Don't spend it in production if you don't have to.
Spend it for
So
food.
You need some
so
money at the end.
Chris says sound, Troy says camera, Jordan says save.
Save money.
Right.
Save your money.
All right.
Sweet. All right,
Now you have some options. So
let's go into the
Kind of like
5,000
mid
plus.
market, kind of
Yeah,
like mid
5
market.
to 10,
Okay, yeah.
5 to 12.
It's funny. That's kind of for me. That's kind of like an uncanny valley for me. I have very little experience with like the C100s. Actually, I have no experience with like the C100s, C300s, things like that, or like the Sony F55. Well, 55 I think is like
F,
12,000.
wait, F,
FS5, FS7,
FS5,
Yeah, like I have
and
FS7.
very like
FS700.
I have experience with like the stuff above that. So I'm very curious about this because I feel like for me as a buyer, this is kind of the next step. I want to get to this middle area where I can buy one of these things, you know.
Yeah, I've used the C100 a lot. I've done a lot of gigs. I haven't
Mhm.
used the C100 Mark II yet.
Mhm.
I've used the C300 once on a film set, and I would love to get my hands on the C300 Mark II. That'd be
Yeah,
great. Uh,
that does shoot 4K, right?
yeah, it does.
Does it have does it shoot in RAW?
Uh, mm,
I'm gonna
I
look
think the
this up because
C5.
look that
yeah,
one
I'm
up.
gonna look up.
It's got C log. It's got a lot of color space, color depth, bit depth options.
Okay.
444, 442, kind of ProRes. There are a lot of video codec options with the C300 Mark II. But I would love to get the C300 just now,
Right.
because even though it's HD, the dynamic range on that is so very nice. The blacks are rich. It's like the details, the hair details.
Yeah.
It's like in camera, it looks like perfect cinema. I mean,
Chris, weren't you? What it wasn't the F7S the Sony camera that you said a lot of people are using that they really like?
Wait, FS5, right? That's what I'm
FS5?
thinking. Yeah,
Well, there's a
yeah.
Sony FS7. You said that a lot of people are using that. It's
So
$8,000.
right. So okay. The FS7 is the baby to the FS. FS5 is the baby to the FS7.
Okay.
FS7 is on the same tier as this
Yeah.
C300 Mark II. Shoots
Okay.
4K. The best camera for documentaries and professional styles like that.
Mhm.
And it's like Sony's like, until you get to the F55 and things like that. This is like
Yeah.
the Sony camera, the Sony cinema camera.
And it is half the price of the
Yes,
the
right.
C300 Mark II. Half.
So
Mhm.
it's better because it like just like I think I think
Because it has faster frame rates.
right
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons. That there's several other reasons. I forget I forget exactly what. So then there's the FS5, which is they say I remember watching like a not a master class on it, but like one of these like hour-long seminars when it first came out,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and I got into it. And I remember they were just like, this isn't like a supposed to be like a cinema camera. This is supposed to be a B camera for the FS7. And they gave a few reasons. I want to look at the specs so I could remember exactly why. Because I remember seeing the price tag at $5,500, and I'm like, wow, this looks like a great camera. Um,
You're talking about the FS5?
the FS5, yeah. So
Okay.
like to get, but I remember like going through the thing, and let's look at the frame rates because that might be a good
I'm
indicator.
at it right now. I mean,
The
it's
FS5 has great frame
24
rate,
30. Up to 240 though in full
which
HD.
that is good slow motion.
Right, that's
120,
great.
anything
At
above
1080?
120 is super nice.
Right. Well,
Hmm.
and let's see. It does shoot in 4K. Do you need an external recorder with it?
No, it shoots
Mm.
internal 4K.
Oh.
When I posted this for my Christmas special, everyone in the comments was saying that it does like 420, or it does like a lower codec that's not, or it was like XAVC-L instead of XAVC-S, and they
Okay.
say XAVC-L is much more uncompressed, and they said you're going to need a
Hmm.
big computer to handle these files because it takes up a lot of space.
Um,
It's pretty memory heavy
Yeah.
as a codec.
well, it does. The 4K is 100 megabytes per second, which actually isn't as much as the peak of the GH4, which can do 200 megabytes per second.
Mhm.
Um, in 4K.
I
So I'm not.
is is the megabytes per second what we're going for, or is it how it
Well,
compresses it?
there's more detail. So, like for example, this one has XAVC L, which is XAVC long, and then XAVC proxy. I'm not exactly sure what the difference is. And then XAVC HD. Um,
Okay.
so it has all three of those. The XAVC proxy is actually H.264. I guess just I'm not sure
That's
how.
the codec.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's still XAVC. I don't know. So it's like both. I'm not really. I'm guessing the proxy means like it's originally shot in
It's like a compressed file.
XAVC, but then the proxy is H.264. I don't really know. Um,
Okay.
but what was your question again with the megabytes? So megabytes has more.
Well, I was just asking, like if it just because it's 200 megabytes and more data is going into the memory card,
Right.
is that does that mean it's a
More
better
detail.
image?
Yeah, technically there's more detail, but as you know, there's a lot of different things that go into a better image.
Right.
There's just like I guess more detail in terms of I guess even uh like the individual like
Color
pixels.
space, pixels,
Yeah,
yeah.
that you can
Okay.
see.
So here's my question. I'm looking at these specs and stuff, and it says where was it? Um, so it says that it shoots Ultra HD, and then it says like
Hmm.
25 frames per second, and then it says like 30. I'm trying to find it. Where was that? Um, Never mind. I just found it. It has all the frame rates here. I was looking at something else. In the XAVC, it has all the different frame rates, but I was
Yeah.
looking at something else, and it had like these weird frame rates, and I was wondering if it doesn't shoot at 24. And I was like, why? It was like 25.
Yeah, 25. That's I think it's European frame rates. Like British television does
Really?
25. Yeah,
not NATSC or whatever.
yeah, I guess PAL is 25,
Okay.
and super slow mo for them, or the start of it is 50 frames, whereas ours is 60 frames.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. How bizarre.
So this goes up to 30 frames per second for 4K and 60 frames per second to 1080p.
On which camera? FS5?
FS5, yeah. Where I think the FS7 is like a notch above that. I think 1080p probably does 120 or probably even 240.
Wait, you sure? Wait, I thought the FS5 can do 240.
It probably can.
Are you looking at the shutter angle or the
No,
shutter speed?
I'm looking at the XAVC long on BH Photo. I'm looking at the frame rates right here. I don't see 240. I think that might be for an external recorder.
Well, I think it says well at the FS5 it says HD up to 240 FPS. The 240 FPS wouldn't be the shutter speed. I mean, shutter speed is usually
It does say that, but I don't see it under the code.
180 usually, and then 270 if you want to be a little quicker, like Steven Spielberg's.
Super slow motion. So 60i frame rates selectable 120, 240, 480, 960. That's for 60i.
960 is an option? Bizarre.
Yeah, 960, but it's only for like 9 seconds. Like you have a very short window. I mean, like shooting a gun or something or blowing a balloon.
Right. So I guess if people are listening in on this and stuff, look up the Sony FS7 and the Sony FS5. Those are the two cameras that we're looking at and comparing right now.
And see, this is where Canon fails in this market because the Canon C100 Mark II is at the same price as the FS5, but can only do 60 frames per second, can only do HD, and it's everything else is basically the same on the FS5. ND filters, professional audio inputs, articulating screen, a big articulating handle, viewfinder.
I wonder if Canon is actually, playing it smart. I mean, they're the ones that they have all the numbers. They know all their data and stuff of what's selling. Maybe 4K, like, unless it's something for a feature film or a short film that needs to be in 4K, if it's for people that are going to consume, not enough people have 4K TVs and devices to consume these things at this point. So maybe they're waiting until that's more commonplace, Maybe they're waiting another year or two.
What if they're just not interested in video and just sticking a photo like Nikon?
I think they are. They have to be, though. I mean, they just put out the C300. They have the C100. I mean, they have all these things. They're
like trying to choke the market. Like they're forcing you to go to the higher price to get 4K. Like when it just came out, the C100, 300, and 500. 500 was the only one that was 4K, and that was like $35,000.
Which you might as well get an Alexa or friggin' Fred or And so I just feel like with Canon, I feel like they haven't quite done a good enough job with marketing what is the utility of these cameras, what are they going for, what is their vision, and like these are our cameras for photography that can do a little bit of video but don't expect great stuff. These are our cameras specifically for video that make great video. It's like they're kind of half-assing with the video over here, and over here they're trying to choke all your pennies out of you for these cameras that aren't even quite up to snuff,
Right, and that pisses us off, the consumer, because it's like, I'm asking you what I want. I'm telling you, like, you have the technology to do it. I'm gonna go to Sony if you don't deliver.
Right, exactly.
I'm getting the same price. I'm asking. They're providing everything that I want.
Yeah.
Please, I'm trying. I'll promise I'll be Canon.
Exactly.
Deliver.
Yeah, exactly. So that's let's see what, and then
well, let's talk about 4K for a minute, because I've had that question asked by some filmmakers. Do I want 4K, or where does that sort of fall on their priority list when choosing a camera?
Right. Well, again, I mean, Chris, yeah.
Have you ever edited 4K? It's weird. I
haven't. Or maybe I did like a GoPro video once.
Okay. Well.
But you use proxy files.
Your computer will just die.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
The down
definitely
res.
proxy files. It's not difficult to do proxy files. My computer is randomly starting iTunes. I think somebody's using the Apple TV remote somewhere and it's like playing. I it must be that, but I'm too far away for that to be a thing. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Back to editing 4K. As like mine's a 2012 MacBook Pro. I have an SSD and 16 gigabytes of RAM. That's
Mhm.
my upgrades to it. So it's
Mhm.
a pretty old machine. Um, with proxy files and editing in like 720p or 1080p even, it handles it pretty flawlessly. Um, at one point I was editing in 4K because I didn't figure out proxy files.
Ooh.
Um, it it worked actually.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it
Really.
worked. It a little slow. Like you don't want it. You don't want any lag when you're editing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like it would only get what gives a lot more I guess lag is when you apply like LUTs to it on a what do you
Oh
call it?
yeah. Oh
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. Save the effects for
Adjustment
later.
layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave that for your colorists and DP, man.
No, well, what I do is, just to like see how it's looking. Like I just have an adjustment layer on and then put a LUT on it, and then I just keep it off. And when I'm rewatching, I just
There
turn
you
the
go.
LUT on, and that's just how I did it. But editing 4K footage is fantastic because you are as the editor, you are the DP now. You can
Mm.
control the shot size. You could punch in
Yeah.
literally up to 4 times without losing any detail.
Mm.
Dude, you can even
And
do like a Steadicam effect.
Yeah,
Handheld.
you
A
you
handheld
can
camera.
do really good warp stabilization. I haven't had to do that, but I can. You definitely can.
Yeah.
And it's going to be literally flawless. You could hold your A7S or Red with one hand, make it shaky, and then have a 1080p make it look like it was on a tripod the entire time. Um,
That's pretty cool.
yeah, it's
So,
definitely.
have you done anything like slide shots, or are you kind of like zoom in on somebody?
What is that
Um,
called? That's
punch in.
something that was invented in like the 70s, I think, right? It has a very particular name.
What,
I'm not
zooming
sure.
in?
It's named after a dude. I forgot, but
I just call it zooming in. But what I
Oh,
have.
Ken Burns. Ken Burns
Oh,
effect.
Ken Burns
yes,
effect.
yeah.
That's what you're thinking.
Okay.
Well, for
No.
Gone Girl, when they shot in like 6K or 8K, and Fincher was sitting in the editing room, and he was saying like, no, let's reframe that to like, scoot it over.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So in that sense, you can like if a frame's sloppy, like the movie I edited had incredible DP, so I didn't have to really reframe. But like if there was one shot that had like a mirror and a flag in like the mirror because there was mirrors everywhere. So I just like enlarged it a little bit and it totally fine. There's other times. There's one time where I did want to punch in from like a medium close up to like a close up, and I was able to do that absolutely no problem. It was
Really?
fantastic. Oh my god,
That's
it's
cool.
incredible. It's so much fun. What's not fun is the terabytes of footage that'll come out of this. Um,
Shit.
you have to invest a lot of money in hard
External
drive
hard drives
space
up the yin
and
yang.
backups. So that's definitely a thing that you should avoid. There's really no reason to like have 4K um, other than the convenience of like editing 4K footage right
Yeah.
now, because um, apparently with YouTube, if you upload a video in 4K, it'll also like have more information, and the 1080p is going to look better if you do both
Oh.
of that. So like
Yeah.
the 1080p is going to be better than
Do you
your
mean
original.
resolution wise, or do you mean dynamic range wise and like
Um,
info wise?
not I think a
Because
little bit
that's
of
on like
everything. I think resolution, like the resolution is a big thing because I think dynamic range is gonna whatever the camera is.
exactly,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but as long as like detail and like crispness, like like 1080p on Vimeo looks better than on YouTube because just the
Yeah.
codec and whatever.
Yeah.
But if you upload to 4K, the 1080p version is gonna look a lot better,
Huh.
um, which is very interesting.
Huh.
So here's another fun tip actually. If you I I have to figure out exactly how it did because I haven't done it, but I have a friend that has done it where you kind of make your 1080p video into like a 4K video and then downscale it that'll make it better too. Somehow with
What?
YouTube's
Really?
algorithm. Yeah, I'll get back to you on that
Wait,
because
so up-res it and then down-res it?
So you
yeah,
upres it, so what you upload is 4K, and then YouTube, you tell YouTube this is a 10K video or a
a
10
1080p.
10K, a 1080p video,
Right.
right?
So
Okay,
that somehow makes it better. I think because remember like for 4K video the 1080p looks a lot better on YouTube and even in the editing room for the 1080p from a 4K camera looks better.
right.
But so same applies to YouTube. So if you take just regular 1080p footage from your iPhone or 70D or whatever, um, you you upscale it and downscale it. I'll get you the exact workflow. I've never done it, but
Yeah,
I
it sounds
have a
interesting.
friend who
I
does it.
kind of want to experiment with that.
Right. So I don't think it looks that much. I'm sure it doesn't look that much better, but
Yeah,
like every detail counts for some people.
you're right.
So it's something I'll look into. But
So you don't
that's
think it's important for people to get 4K at this point then?
you know what it. I'd be like a hypocrite if I said it's not because the next camera I get, I kind of want like 4K in it, or at least
You
to
would
get the
probably put it on like
A7S.
your second or third priority. It wouldn't be
Right.
it's not your number one priority.
It's a decision maker because if the C100 was 4K, I'd have it tomorrow.
Oh, hell
Yeah,
yeah.
Um,
Hell yeah.
but since it's not, I'm hesitant. So with the A7S at least, I know 4K is available if I want it. I'm not limiting myself. I
so
know
Good
it.
it
point.
future-proofs you a little bit. Like you
Yes.
you
Yeah.
you are setting
Yeah.
yourself up for the next couple years, which and I think when you buy a camera, you should be thinking about the next couple years.
Yeah, definitely. Because the C100, you know what you're gonna get. It's not gonna get any better. It's
Right,
Yeah.
older and deteriorate in value. But if you have the A7S, it could last you 5 or 6 years if you constantly upgrade your lens kit and your what recorder you're using it with. So
right.
Yeah. That's a great point. Like on a video production standpoint, I would look at my camera as an investment. Sort of how can I make money from this, or how is this camera going to make me money? And if it costs me 5,000, how am I going to be able to make that back using this camera?
Right. And that's
4K.
exactly the mindset you should have. Yeah, totally.
So 4K, for clients, 4K doesn't matter. Like
Right.
if you're, I mean, this is outside of filmmaking, but
doesn't matter.
they don't know the difference. You can tell them it's 4K and charge them more, and then submit it,
That'd be
down-res it
so
to
unethical though.
1080p. Oh no, say like no, we're gonna do a 4K package for you, but we'll just down-res it to 1080p. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's great. You can charge more for it.
right.
Um, but
Oh,
I think on a A7S seminar with Philip Bloom, he was talking about 4K and how we interact with our television. So, what would you say is the average distance between?
Double the diagonal distance of the TV is the
Well,
optimal viewing distance.
no, what would you say is the average distance between someone on their couch and the TV?
That's what I
10,
mean.
about 10 feet.
Okay,
10
so an
feet.
actual feet. Yeah, sure.
So 720 to 1080, they're like 10 feet and 5 feet. You can tell the difference.
Right.
To tell the difference between like that's how close you have to be to the TV. Between 1080p and 4K, you have to be within 6 inches of the screen to be able to tell the difference.
Right. Your eyes can't discern the difference.
So if you're at your regular couch sitting and I showed you a 4K video, you could not say that it's 1080p or it's 4K with 100% certainty.
Well, I think what it is doing is it's opening the door for larger televisions. Because I don't know about you guys, but I feel like in the last couple years, I mean, my parents just bought a 75-inch 4K TV.
it's
And
crazy.
God
yeah,
damn.
like it's amazing, but it's like
Oh.
yeah, it's like but a 75-inch TV sounds kind of crazy now. If you would have told me that like 3 or 4 years ago, I would have been like, fuck off. That's never gonna exist. Like that's
Right.
huge, and it looks like fairly normal at this point. Like I walked in the house and I'm like, yeah, it looks big, but it's not like overwhelmingly large. So I think like 8K, I think is something that's coming in a couple years too.
Projectors are
Maybe
big.
yeah, it's
Big
huge
now.
for projectors and it's opening the door for larger televisions.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I still think the biggest aspect, like the biggest thing for 4K is like what you could do on the editing board. Resolution wise,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter because you can't tell the difference. I think it's like 2K is like the cap.
yeah.
Uh, but
There's
that's
other things that are more important. I mean, for me, I'll say it again, dynamic range is so important because
Yeah.
if you get a camera that has 14, 15, 16 stops at dynamic range, that means that you literally could be in a room where you can see in the shadows and you can see outside as well possibly. Or out like if you're outside, you will see the details in the shadows
Mhm.
and you won't have an overexposed sky, you know.
Mhm.
Depends on the camera if it's more the range is more towards the shadows and the highlights, but like that is so important. That's so much better for an image than resolution, you
I would
know.
agree with you, Troy. That's my number one priority. I even remember going from the T3i to the 70D,
Mhm.
and it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
look at all that color.
Yeah, yeah.
I can see now.
Exactly. It's like it's almost it gets you closer to what you would see in real life, you know?
Mhm.
So and I mean there's yeah. I think dynamic range is the most important thing for me, but who am I?
Who are you?
Who am I?
Well, these $5,000 to $10,000 cameras. What's good about them from the previous lower group is that now gives you the option to play with these color spaces. It gives
Mhm.
you logarithm files. You're able to, the A7S two. You can go
The
into
S-Log 2 and
S-Log 2, S-Log 3 now,
yeah,
and you're able to pull a lot more color, pull a lot more data from the shadows, the highlights,
right.
and be able to work in color grading,
You
which is
can
great.
actually you can alter the image in post to more of what you wanted, whereas like on those lower cameras, you don't have that luxury. You're stuck with what you got to a certain extent. Like I can only do so much in color correcting and resolve with my 6D. I mean, literally, I can
Mhm.
kind of bring it out a little bit and stuff, but I really can't do that much.
Gives you a lot to work
Yeah,
with.
can it? Yeah, there's not a lot you could do with Canon stuff.
Yeah.
But
So I've got a buddy that I mentioned earlier, and he's in this budget range,
Okay.
and let me pull up his kind of little checklist that he wanted. I think I have it on our little chat. Let's
oh,
see.
he's in the $5,000 range.
I think he's in the sub $10,000 range.
Oh,
Okay.
geez.
So let me see.
That's what I'm hoping within. I hope within the next year I could get something like the FS7 or the FS5 or the C. It'd probably be one of those ones. I don't know if I'd get
Yeah.
any of the Canon ones.
So his priorities are number one is resolution, number two is being able to film at high frame rate but keep good quality, and
Mhm.
number three, I don't know how we'll try to figure this one out, but I love cinematography like in The Revenant, and I like how the guy from Colorado uses his videos, so I want to be able to do stuff like that. I think he was talking about uh, these sort of cinematic documentaries. So he
Okay,
wants,
I was gonna say who's the guy from Colorado?
yeah, I need a
That
little
could be
more
anyone. He
need a
could
little
be
more
talking
Looking it up
about
right
context.
now.
he could be talking about Papa John.
So
What is he looking up right now?
right now, I think he has a pocket cinema camera,
Okay,
maybe,
like a
or
Black
or
Magic.
Does he know his
or
stuff? Like,
or maybe not. Maybe he doesn't have a camera at all. But let's just say he doesn't have a camera that is worthy. So he was coming to me about the FS5. I was telling him FS5, FS7.
Yeah.
Um, that he came up with the Red Raven, which
Okay.
is just under $10,000. It's got the Dragon sensor. It is
Okay.
4.5K. It's got 240 frames per second at
Yeah.
2K, I think. I'm trying to remember everything. Um,
so I've used the Red Raven,
yeah,
actually. Yeah.
do tell.
He can't get the Red Raven, and here's why. Because
Okay.
the Red
And
Raven,
in context, have you used any other Red cameras before?
no, I have not.
Okay, that's
Red
fine.
Raven's the only Red camera I've ever used. Um, because the Red Raven, let's say it's $8,000, $9,000. The
Mhm.
handle that it doesn't come with is $450.
It's so modular. That's the issue with Red. Exactly.
Yeah.
The
Everything is
handle.
proprietary things too. Like
That's what I was telling him too. It's like he's like, so if I get the Raven, what else do I need? And I was like, well, sit
you need a
down for a
lot.
minute.
Here's another reason that like some people might get the C300 because you might get the same like 4K quality, but it's like going to be cheaper than getting a Red Raven at the end of the day. I mean, well, like
You're probably right.
it definitely will be. The Red Raven's going to have more flexibility in color than the C300 Mark II, but by the time you're done with the Red Raven, if you want a handle, if you want anything like a completed if you want to build what the C300 is without any additional things like a rig or anything, it's going to be like $19,000.
So
Yeah, they're
here's what's
expensive.
included in the $10,000 Red Raven package. First, you need a $1,000 deposit, but you will get the Raven Brain, you'll get the Jetpack extender, you will get the AC adapter, you get one 120 gigabyte mini mag, so their proprietary SD card.
So like 2 minutes of footage. No.
I mean, at 4.5K, 120 gigs, someone do the math on that.
You probably get like
That's
It will
30
20
be.
minutes.
minutes,
30 minutes,
20,
yeah.
30, something like that.
You get a battery belt clip, you get the touchscreen, you get the outrigger handle, and you get 1 year warranty. So on here, I don't see batteries, and I don't see. Yes, okay, and you need more memory. So that's what he was asking, like, what else do I need? I was
Well, you
like,
need lenses too.
you need lenses, yeah.
I mean, that's the big thing with these
Um,
cameras. Everyone, you need to realize. Also, okay. There's a lot of stuff because it's like, what mount is he going to use? Because even the mounts on these are modular, so you can take them off. You can use a PL mount system, so you use cine lenses, or you can even put on a thing where you can put EF mounts. So
So
it's like,
this one comes with EF mount standard.
okay, so if he's gonna,
I think that's his lens system that he has.
okay, so if he's gonna do that, then cool. I was just gonna say, like, if you want him to use cine lenses, like, that's another couple thousand per lens, you know. So it's a loaded question because there's.
CB2s come in what do you call it, in EF mount as well.
Okay. So the 120 gigabyte red mini mag is $850.
So we should let's write off the red right now. It's just not going to happen.
I think it's not going to get you
For the sub
under
10,000. Yeah, for sub 10,000, I would say no. I mean, I have a lot of friends that have reds that love them and they're great, but I think sub 10,000 probably not going to happen.
Now, what about used on eBay? Like the red one or the Scarlet?
I wouldn't. If you're going to make an investment like that, don't get a used camera.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean,
well, yeah. So sub 10,000, like even going back to like the A7S II with like an Odyssey controller, like that might be like I've seen that, like people suggest that setup. Even though it's like significantly cheaper, it's like one of the best on the markets right now. The thing I will say about the A7S, which I forgot about, is you have to really know your stuff with it because like you not only need to be like a good cinematographer, but you need to know how the camera works because like the slightest thing will give you like too much grain. If you go like under 3200 ISO and like do stuff,
well, you need to find the native ISO for it.
3200 is the native ISO for A7S. A7S II is 1600.
Yeah, they lowered it. Thank God they lowered it.
And but like for example, the 4K movie that I have been editing was shot like in a 4K external recorder, but he shot at like 12,800 ISO because of the way he lit it. That's how the skin tones look the best at 12,800 ISO. He knew that. I'm not sure how he knew that.
Does he use the light meters?
I don't remember if he did.
Um,
Tell your buddy to look into getting a light meter and learning how they work.
I'm pretty sure he did because I know a lot of people that do use light meters. I have one somewhere. Not right here. Actually, right here.
Oh yeah, your manual one out there.
The old school.
Not a Sysonic one.
Right, but it's kind of, I know it's a difficult interface, and you kind of need to be exact to get the perfect image out of it. So Sub 10,000. Get the FS7.
What do we
I would
think
say.
about Black Magic? I'll say for Black Magic, it's on paper it looks great, but when you really start to think about all the things you need to buy for Black Magic, doesn't work for me.
Well, see, here's the thing with Blackmagic is they literally give you Resolve with it
Hmm.
because you know that if you get that camera, you absolutely have to work with it in post. Like
Right.
the image, if you were just to look at the raw image that you get out of that camera without any editing, it
Garbage.
looks like shit. But it has a lot of information. So if
Mhm.
you know how to color correct, if you know how to work in post, that's actually a really good camera. I've worked with it I think like once or twice, and
The Black Magic Cinema.
the 4K one. So it's
Okay,
like
that weird.
it looked.
It's such a weird shape too.
That's the thing is it's like it's almost like it's built in a weird way. It's not super intuitive. It's like the touchscreen. Things are just kind of it's weird. So
Mhm.
I think the image quality out of it, if you can work in Resolve, is fine, or any color correcting
No
things.
doubt. I was really hyped about the Ursa Mini when that was coming out, and it took forever to come out.
It's more
But
expensive than the Ursa, the original one.
yeah, but the Ursa original one is such a freaking huge,
Is
like,
it really?
dude, it's like a printer with a lens on it. That's what it is. Or and the LCD screen is pretty much an iPad. So
That's hilarious.
that's how big it is.
It's
Yeah.
funny
Um,
because I'm seeing pictures of people holding the Ursa Mini, and that's as
look
big as any camera I've used.
look up
Right.
Ursa, and that's even bigger. Like,
That's
here's my
funny.
Xbox with an iPad on it.
Original Xbox.
There you go. But the Ursa,
I wanna address what's your friend's name? Or
his
the
name his name's Zach.
Zach. I want to address Zach's initial question and inquiry. He wants it
Yep.
to look like The Revenant.
Yes.
I mean, there's a couple things about that. First of all, The Revenant won the Academy Award for Best Cinematography, and the best cinematographer that's probably ever exist shot that. So that's a huge
It's a tall
undertaking,
order.
first of all.
Tall
Second of
order.
all, there's so many things about that made it wonderful. I mean, first of all, Patagonia. So maybe I don't know, is Zach like thinking of going to Patagonia or something that like looks kind of like Patagonia? Because that is huge. Landscape and location are huge for that. Number two, they shot with natural lighting, so they had huge 40 by 40 neg fill, which is like solid, so that you could bring them up for it's neg fill is I could get into that sometime, but essentially makes things darker. Like
Yeah.
it's absence
More
of light,
contrast.
more contrast so that you get the certain contrast ratio that you want. Then I mean, I think didn't we talk about this last week or something? I feel
A
like we
little
talked
bit.
about
Yeah,
this.
we alluded to it. Now
I
we're
just
trying to
got
solve
some
this problem.
yeah, I just got some major deja vu. But I mean, the cameras that they shot that on, I have to imagine with Chivo, he shot on probably an Alexa with like
Yeah.
master primes or like
Yep.
Cook lenses that are just like rent these for thousands of dollars every day. So it's like thousands. So
Funny thing with
Ten.
the Cook lenses is I'm shooting. Well, I'm not shooting it, but I'm on set, and the guy's got Cook lenses for $250 a day.
yeah,
Great.
lenses are very expensive.
But
That I
that's
mean, that's
super
a lot
cheap.
of
That's really cheap, let me
I
say.
know, but the thing is that's what all DPs, or not all, most DPs want to put their money in the lenses because that's where it's at. I mean,
Okay. All right. Here we go. Shot on what the Revenant. Arri Alexa 65,
mhm.
Alexa XT, Alexa XT-M, Red Epic Dragon, and then lenses. We got the Leica Summilux C series, the
Mhm.
Panavision C series, Panavision Prime Anamorphic, and then the Zeiss
I was
Master
gonna say
Primes.
it's that definitely anamorphic. Do you guys want to talk about anamorphic versus spherical?
Another episode. We're
Another
Yeah,
already
episode? Okay.
we're
that's
already
in the weeds.
hour and a half
Okay.
in.
Um,
Let's finish with this guy's recommendation. What should we
so
recommend?
maybe he's just wanting something that looks good in natural lighting. So maybe a camera that's built for low lighting, something that can handle very unprofessionally lit situations.
Well, the thing is too is with that. I mean, in Patagonia, a lot of that was shot in like an overcast area, which means that you're gonna get overcast skies, which means things are gonna be very even. You're not gonna get shadows. You're not gonna. I mean, if they were in those trees and stuff, and they were shooting with the sun directly above, it would look hideous because you're gonna get all these shadows that are like over your eyes and things like that. So a lot of times it's overcast or the sun was super low, so it was like a little more romantic. So I would say.
And I think he's also not trespassing. He's also kind of stepping into documentaries. So he wants that run and gun ability. And so what camera could he do
FS7.
that?
I'm gonna say the FS7. I mean, if he wants that 4K and he wants to be able to shoot fast, I mean, and it's kind of that run and gun. I mean, you got that handle, and it's. I mean, if he wants the EF lenses, I'd say the FS7 because you don't want to. I mean, I think we've established we're Canon people for the lower ones because we're invested in that. But I feel like if we were to buy our cameras now, especially with the landscape of things, we'd probably go Sony. So if it was my money, definitely FS7.
FS7, $8,000, Super 35 CMOS sensor.
And if you even go
4K.
even go the FS5 and invest that extra money into the lenses, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I agree. FS5 or FS7, and I think the question remains there is what kind of lenses does he want to use? Does he want to maybe do PL cine lenses? And
we talked about the Rokinon lenses and Scene lenses.
Yeah.
So Rokinons are really nice. I have two. I love them. They're phenomenal, but they're not even considered cine lenses because they're so low on the tier.
Yeah. Well, they don't have autofocus too, and if he's doing run and gun stuff, he probably wants some autofocus stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't think no cine lens has autofocus.
That's what I'm saying. So, but if he has the EF lenses like L series, something like that for maybe autofocus stuff, then
So if he gets a few of those, but like, I mean, for his price range, he could afford to get one or two Zeiss CP2 lenses.
Yeah, that's true. That would be sick. Yeah.
I was also telling him about the Rokinon, and since it's like a T-stop of like 1.6 or something, so it's so low. I was like, you're gonna get a really cinematic look. So it almost doesn't matter what camera you get, camera body. If you just have that low T-stop, then you're gonna like get that really, really shallow look. So
probably gonna get a lot of aberration at that point, though. So you probably want to stop up a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So FS7, FS5.
Yeah.
I would agree. Cool.
All right.
Do we want to trespass in the $10,000+ range?
No, because the thing is that's like, again, we're talking about Red. We're talking about it's super modular, and it's gonna cost you more than you think, and all these components and stuff. But they're still great cameras. And if we're talking about the Alexa, I mean, Alexa is super expensive. I mean, they're $30,000, $34,000, and then when you're shooting and renting out your lenses, you're getting these super expensive lens rentals. So that's more for feature films and stuff,
At that point, it's almost not even worth it to buy it.
Yeah, no, it's not.
And the people that I know who have bought them, like say, I know someone who bought a Red Epic Dragon. So $50,000, and what they've had to do is rent out, and it can also turn into like a business a little bit. But they've had to rent out the Red Epic Dragon in order to cover the monthly payments that they're having to make on the camera. Which can be kind of cool. So you charge like $800 to rent it for the day, but you can also kind of tie it in like Red Epic Dragon operator. So now it's $1,200 a day.
You have a day rate,
Yeah, so you're the operator, and you also get to make sure your equipment isn't getting fucked up. So you just
right. You're not just giving it to Joe Schmo.
So it's that's something that's a scary thing to kind of that you have to. I mean, it would force you to get in there. Like sounds like go on Craigslist, dude. Start selling yourself as the Red Epic guy.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
All right, so. Is that
I think we covered a decent amount.
I think we satisfied everything that we set out to talk about. It wasn't as structured as your fantastic vlog, but I think we covered pretty much around the same stuff.
Yeah. And probably a closing thought about buying a camera is it's usually double the price that it's listed on the website. And what I mean by that is if you're buying a $5,000 camera, expect to spend an extra $3,000 to $5,000 on infrastructure, batteries, chargers, software, lenses. Just it's everything to kind of make the camera work. There are very few cameras that out of the box are ready to go.
Right. Unless it's a point and shoot, and at that point you're probably not that serious about filming. So.
So.
Cool.
Good. Good episode, dudes.
I'm excited.
Talk about gear all day.
Yeah.
All right, that's the show, everybody. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week on the Your Film, a Playground podcast.
Peace, y'all.